It's day 5 of the Israel-Hamas war, and status report, a lot more escalation. That is the big headline. A lot of escalation. The death toll is now increasing rapidly. It was around 1,600 yesterday. It is now more than 2,100. 2,100 people dead. Israel has put its death toll at more than 1,200. Over in Gaza, it's more than 900. And chances are this will keep increasing. This morning, Gaza woke up to more airstrikes. The Israeli Air Force struck 200 targets in Gaza City. 200 Hamas targets. And they're not done yet, far from it. All of these strikes could be building up to the most important operation, a ground invasion of Gaza. According to the Defense Minister of Israel, preparations are on. Listen to this.
We started the offensive from the air. Later on, we will also come from the ground. We've been controlling the area since day 2 and we are on the offensive. It will only intensify.
Yesterday we told you about Israel's unity government. Talks were on between the ruling coalition and the opposition. They're now in agreement, which means Israel will have an emergency unity government, and that's more insurance for Prime Minister Netanyahu, more political capital to escalate. He has that backing. So do not expect a let-up in this war. And what's the other side doing? Well, Hamas did launch some rocket attacks yesterday. They struck the southern city of Ashkelon in Israel. But the big picture is clear. Hamas cannot sustain this war. It is exactly how the Israeli Prime Minister put it. Hamas may have started the war, but now Israel will end it. The question is, at what cost? The situation in Gaza is getting worse. A total siege has been imposed there. No food, no fuel, no water. Gaza has just one power plant. Reports say it has stopped working, which means no electricity either. For hospitals, for shelters, and for refugee camps, no power. Israel has already asked Palestinians to flee Gaza. Just one problem, though. They have nowhere to go. You can't go to the Israeli border. So the only option for them is the Egyptian side, the Rafah border crossing, which opens into Egypt. Now, only 400 people are allowed to cross this border every day. And even that is tough now. The pictures can be heartbreaking, like this one. It shows a father comforting his daughters. Their bodies are covered in dust and blood. And this is the reality of war, the fallout of Hamas's barbaric and thoughtless attack.
Children are now playing with these. Where should they sleep? These are our mattresses, pillows. What is that? Where are we living? This is not a life. We are living surrounded by rubble. Gaza is destroyed. Everything is destroyed.
There are calls to create an evacuation corridor now, sort of like an exit route from Gaza. The United States is mediating this effort. Israel and Egypt are also involved, but time is of the essence here because the next stage could be worse, and Hamas knows this. If Israel throws its might at Gaza, it's game over for them. They cannot withstand it. So Hamas is now appealing for help, and they're asking Arab nations to join the fight.
I call upon the surrounding countries, Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, and Egypt, all of its sons and daughters, officially and popularly, your duty is bigger because you are closer to Palestine.
Some have responded, like Syria and the Hezbollah in Lebanon. The Hezbollah have fired precision rockets into Israel in the north. They've also used anti-tank rounds, and in response, Israel is shelling southern Lebanon. It's a very volatile situation right now. At least 3 Israeli soldiers have been killed at the northern border. On the other side, around 8 Lebanese militants have been killed. Now, Israel and Hezbollah are sworn enemies. So if this war spills over, expect Hezbollah to join. And it's not just them. Israel is dealing with fire from Syria as well. Unidentified projectiles landed in Israeli territory, and in response, the Israelis fired back. So here's what Israel's war effort looks like right now. To the south, it's an all-out war. Israel versus Hamas. To the north, there is sporadic fighting against the Hezbollah in Lebanon and Syria. Plus, there is action in the West Bank. Palestinians are mobilizing and protesting there in the West Bank, and Israel is cracking down on them. Reports say around 21 Palestinians have been killed so far, so anything is possible. This single-front war could turn into a 2-front or even a 3-front war. Israel and its allies know this. Yesterday, Prime Minister Netanyahu spoke to US President Joe Biden, and that phone call was on camera. Listen to what Netanyahu told Biden.
We had hundreds massacred, families wiped out in their beds and their homes, women brutally raped and murdered, over 100 kidnapped, including children. And since we last spoke, the extent of this evil, it's only gotten worse. They took dozens of children, bound them up, burned them, and executed them. They beheaded soldiers.
That was the brutality of Hamas's attack. Families killed in their beds, children abducted and executed, and soldiers beheaded. It was violence and brutality beyond imagination. President Biden realizes this. He's had his differences with Netanyahu in the past, but now he's supporting the Israeli leader.
In this moment, we must be crystal clear. We stand with Israel. We stand with Israel. We will make sure Israel has what it needs to take care of its citizens, defend itself, and respond to this attack. There's no justification for terrorism. There's no excuse.
The U.S. military aid has already arrived in Israel. Aircraft carrier Gerald Ford is also in place. It is the largest carrier in the whole world, also the most advanced U.S. warship. There is now talk of sending a second carrier, the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower. It was supposed to head towards Europe, but the Pentagon is considering a new plan to deploy this carrier to the eastern Mediterranean. And that's a lot of firepower. You see, these carriers do not sail alone. They sail as an armada. We're talking about cruisers, destroyers, fighter jets. So the message from Washington is quite clear. We have Israel's back. Netanyahu was likely waiting for this go-ahead. He's got everything in place to invade Gaza. Around 300,000 reserve soldiers are on standby, 3 lakh soldiers. Dozens of tanks and artillery vehicles are ready. It's either a grand invasion plan or a very good bluff. But considering what Israel has just been through, the invasion seems more likely. It will be